All right. So at this point, this is the kind of the data connection page. And from here, you can see that I have a number of tabs already open, but we're going to ignore those, and I'm just going to open a new what's called a worksheet basically in Tableau. So in your case, you'll probably see it very next to the data source, or you should at least see this icon. If you hover over it, you'll see new worksheet. Go ahead and select that, and it's very small, but select it, and you should see sheet one. At this point, there's a couple of options that we have available to get started. You can notice, first of all, the data source is here. So in our case, we have these two sample datas have been connected. But just ensure that you're connected to the same data. Again, going back to the data source itself, smaller tree census, we're good here. Those are just effectively duplicated file types. But here again, just kind of confirming these are all the headings from the previous page, the data page, the connection page, and they all match. If you happen to notice something that needs to be changed, you can certainly change that here, both in the field itself, so from numeric to geo and so on and so forth. But you could also edit the name of the particular headings within this view as well, rename in that option. But that's, again, just all the various options that you have available to begin creating visualizations. Before we do that, though, I want to show you around Tableau very quickly. Okay. First things first, this again is all of the data. This is your data connection window here. This is the data source, and these are all the various fields that we have to begin creating visualizations. This huge open field here is your visualization pane, basically the window. This is where when you start creating visualizations, they will appear here. Up here to the right, you'll see the Show Me tab. If you click that, you'll see all the various visualization options that you have available to you. Notice that only a few are accessible at this point, but if you hover over them, you'll get a sense of what you need to get to make a particular visualization. So in this case, notice at the bottom, there is for stacked bar charts, we would need either one or more dimensions and one or more measures. So what does that mean? So we go back over here to our data. And notice there's this very faint line here. Everything above that line is our dimensions, and everything below that line are measures. Dimensions, simply put, they're basically qualitative values in nature, whereas everything below the measures, everything below this faint line, the measures are quantitative in value. That's the simplest way that I can explain it. And in this case, you will need, again, based on the bar charts, one or more of each of those. For a geo or a map, obviously you're going to need at least one geo field, and then 0 to or more dimensions and 0 to 2 measures to begin making a map, and then so on and so forth. With the dual lines, because of the emphasis on time series data, you're going to need at least one date to be able to populate those. So this just kind of gives you a quick sense of the kind of data that you'll need. And from there, you can kind of get started making visualizations. So at this point, I'll kind of continue a quick overview, and then I'll highlight some of these things a little bit more naturally, I guess, as we go through the demonstration. So those are the visualization options you have. Just click it to open it, click it again to close it. Now going on this top row here, you'll see several options. One, what effectively is the Tableau icon. If you click that, you're going to go back to your data source, the connection page itself. So if you wanted to reconnect to data or connect to new data, you could do that there quite easily. This is the back button, and undo button and a redo button here. This is a relatively new feature, but really nice to have. So for instance, if you were to make a change to your visualization, but then you're not really happy with it, you could obviously undo it and similarly redo it. You can start animations if you have those. This is where you would save your visualization. In this case, again, because we're using the public version, everything that we save will be saved to the cloud. In other words, that account that we created earlier on the website will contain our saved visualizations. This allows you to connect to additional data sources. You see, just as in this example, there are two different data sources, even though these are technically the same. But if you had multiple data sources, you would see all of those there, and then you would just click them individually to see the various fields change. If that makes sense. This is where if you wanted to create a new worksheet, you could click this icon here, but remember, we just clicked the one down here. So you have two options for that. If you wanted to duplicate a particular visualization so that you can maybe make changes, but you don't want to change any from the original visualization, or you're going to make some subtle changes that rather than having to start from scratch, you could just begin with one that's very similar. You can click the duplicate button here. And then finally, if you just want to clear the visualization out and start over, you can click this button. And we'll do some of this, I think, in a moment during the demonstration. Likewise, this allows us to manipulate the X and Y axis, or the columns and rows. So if you wanted to kind of arrange a bar chart, for instance, by in ascending or descending order, or if you wanted to just kind of reorient the X and Y axis, you could do that with these icons here. And then there are a few more options here. I think probably those are the most important and ones you're most likely to use on this particular ribbon of options. I guess with the exception of this, if you needed to make some adjustments to the particular visualizations in terms of the size, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Also, I'll just mention briefly, there are a number of other options along the very top here. If you're a Mac user, it looks like this. If you're a Windows user, it's a little more embedded within the actual application, but the options should be the same. And these are just various features of Tableau that I'll cover in a future video, a little more intermediate or advanced Tableau options. But for now, I'm going to stick to the basics just as an introduction.